Hey everybody, this is Spiderbyte here. Thank you all for your patience, and it was a long grieving, and I'd like to say thank you all for all the support and for Stanley, and he will be remembered, but to be honest, after when I found out about his death, I actually did stop working on stop working on my projects, and I only focused on taking a break from here, and now I've decided to come back, and now I am going to be doing a riff, or going back to T-Riffs. Yeah, it's still going to be called T-Riffs, but this should be its own separate series, but to be honest, a T-Riff is only going to be used if I had nothing planned out, and I had nothing planned out. I'm going to be very honest with you folks. Thank you all for your patience. So yeah, when you look at the background, it's back to the original. I'm actually home for the holidays, and I'm gonna hopefully work on the next episode. And I just want to say thank you all for your patience. Yeah, I got a haircut and my mustache trimmed. Want to look good for my family and for the holidays, and I want to say thank you for patience. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I know I had fun making it. And, well, thanks for being there for me. Oh yeah, one more thing. I want to announce we actually have a bit of a sponsor, but it's more of a shout out. This is a shout out from Autism Asperger's Friendship Society of Calgary. You can actually find. I'll put a link down the I'll put the link down on the website, and you click on programs and subscribe to the magazine. I actually work as I'm the head magazine designer there, and I actually put all the articles in there. Even though they were written by others, but I put the articles in, and I want to share that with you guys. Help support those in need. So sit back, relax, and hopefully enjoy. You know, like in school, they have that what do you do in class? And they say nothing. This is the nothing. Wow, a college degree on telling us how to eat lunch. Wow, I feel educational.
Just before lunch one day, a puppet show was put on at school.
The teacher didn't tell the students, so they were all scared.
Lunch. It was fun to watch. In the puppet show, Mr. Bungle came to the boys' room on his.
I thought Mr. Bungle was a weird clown that looked like Pennywise, but he was like a mess. But he was like a wrestler.
And his hair was messy.
Messy.
But Mr. Bungle didn't stop to wash his hands or comb his hair. He went right to lunch.
Stupid.
Then, instead of getting into line at the lunchroom,
Merry Christmas, kiss my ass, kiss his ass, and a happy Hanukkah.
And went right to the front. Even though this made the children laugh, no one thought that was a fair thing to do.
Until they realized it was actually a good idea.
Then, in the lunchroom, Mr. Bungle was so clumsy and impolite that he knocked over everything, and no one wanted to sit next to him.
Man, Mel Gibson directing The Last Supper was really bad.
Off the table, that was the end of the puppet show.
For the puppeteer had died after doing the performance.
The children knew that even though Mr. Bungle was funny to watch, he wouldn't be much fun to eat with.
This kid is having I think Phil's having a seizure or something, because he's clapping from the side.
He didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle. Later, Miss Brown said it was time for the children who ate in the cafeteria to go to lunch. She hoped there weren't any Mr. Bungles in this room.
I'm looking at you, Susie! And
Phil stopped to return a book to Miss Brown while his friends went on to the lunchroom. He would have to catch up with them later.
Don't be a bungle.
On his way to catch up with his friends, Phil almost walked past the boys' room, but he stopped and thought. Were his hands clean? No, they were a little dirty. Phil remembered that Mr. Bungle didn't wash his hands.
Don't want to be a bungle! Don't want to be a bungle!
His hair was messy, too. Phil didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle.
I don't want to be like Mr. Bungle! Oh!
Inside the boys' room, Phil was surprised to see some of his friends washing their hands, too.
Not in the toilet.
Phil
That's
washed
disgusting.
his hands well, with lots of soap.
Man, Howie Mandel must like this kid for having that much soap.
Then he rinsed the soap off.
Well, yeah, what do you think you're supposed to do with that? And this is supposed to be made from a guy from
Phil
college.
dried his hands well, too. When he was finished, he threw the paper towel in the basket where it belonged. And then he made sure that his hair looked neat.
What hair? Charlie Brown had more hair.
Now, Phil and his friends were ready for lunch.
Hey, wait a minute. If you touch the handle, don't you have to go wash your hands again because it's dirty? You don't want to be a Mr. Bungle.
There was a line of children waiting to get into the lunchroom when Phil got there. He saw some boys he knew at the front of the line. They waved for him to go up to the front with them.
I don't want to be a bungle!
But Phil didn't want to break into line as Mr. Bungle did.
I don't want to be a bungle!
So Phil
Can't you
went to
just
the
bungle
end.
once?
That was the fair thing to do. He would see his other friends inside the lunchroom.
5 hours later.
The line moved very fast, and soon Phil was inside. First he picked up his tray.
And you got this guy.
Then he got his silverware.
Oh, yeah, good. Man, a guy from college.
He put his knife, fork, and spoon neatly on the tray.
Wow, this is the most.
And then he slid his tray along.
And he took the right foot and left foot and right foot and left. This is so stupid.
He always enjoyed looking at the good food in the cafeteria.
Well,
it tasted good and was good for him, too.
well, it's made out of horse meat and cow
Instead
hearts.
of having a sandwich today, Phil decided to take the hot lunch.
Which is cold because he didn't cut in line.
Phil took some bread and butter, too.
I see.
And he knew what else he wanted.
Ooh la la! Oh, you wanted the milk,
Alice
okay.
took the last carton on the tray. Maybe there was more milk. So he said, "May I please have some milk?"
Yahoo! I didn't
Phil
know you could
remembered
talk
to
like
say,
that, little
"Come
kid.
on," and please.
Little boy, your voice is very deep.
Yes, there was more
Here
milk.
you go, the milk.
Phil remembered to say thank you when he took the carton of milk. Phil had good manners. He didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle in the lunch.
I'm looking at you, Jimmy.
Phil didn't want to forget his dessert. The cake.
Dang, now that's a good piece of cake. That's like what I would have for breakfast.
At the end of the line, the lunchroom supervisor said she had noticed how polite Phil was, and she smiled at him. She wouldn't smile at a Mr.
I'm looking at you,
Bungle.
bungle breath.
Phil went to the table where his friends were. He put his tray down carefully,
Yeah.
pulled out his chair quietly,
Well, of course.
and sat down. He knew his friends wouldn't like a noisy Mr. Bungle at their table. There was someone Phil liked, Freddie.
Freddie who?
He always brought his lunch from home. It looked good. Freddie had a sandwich, an apple, a cookie.
That's a
milk.
cookie? That looks more like a Timbit. Or a rabbit turd or something.
Before Phil began to eat, he always put a napkin on his lap.
Well, that's obvious.
So did Freddie.
Oh.
Everyone liked Freddie. He was very polite. For example, if he had food in his mouth when someone talked to him, he always took time to chew the food with his mouth closed and swallow before he answered.
Yeah, the fire extinguisher was over there.
Phil noticed how straight and tall Freddie usually sat.
Well,
Freddie kept his feet on the floor, too.
they were actually nailed down.
Phil would rather be like Freddie than like Mr. Bungle. Another polite person everyone liked was Alice. For example, when Alice sneezed, she covered her mouth. And
No!
This protected
Don't
her
put
friends at the
the
table
snot on your leg. You're gonna have boogers on your
Phil and his
legs. That's
friends
disgusting.
ate. A boy ran past their table. You shouldn't run in the lunchroom. Only Mr. Bungle would do that.
Crucify the bungler!
Phil and his friends wouldn't like to have a Mr. Bungle at their table. Then lunchtime wouldn't be as much fun as it is.
Wee.
Phil ate slowly and enjoyed his lunch. Finally, he had eaten everything except his dessert.
That cake
He
looks
saved
so
his cake
good.
for last. Only a Mr. Bungle would eat his dessert before he'd finished the rest of
No,
his lunch.
any grown man would
Phil
like to
wasn't a
eat
Mr.
dessert
Bungle.
first. Hey, wait a minute. He touched the cake. He's a bungler! He's a bungler!
Phil drank his milk carefully. Some children are messy when they drink milk,
Uh,
but not Phil.
Okay, I'll agree with him on that.
As each of Phil's friends finished, they didn't leave the table, but waited for all the others to finish eating too.
Really?
Phil was the last one done. He wiped his mouth and hands carefully with his napkin.
10 minutes later, it turned out to be recess
Then he
time.
cleaned the table where he sat. He didn't want to leave his place at the table dirty. Everyone at the table cleaned his own place well.
Well, her place,
Look
too.
at that table. It was left very messy. Phil thought a Mr. Bungle must have sat there.
No, I'm actually under the table.
But Phil didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle. So he put his chair neatly into place.
Well, what do you think you're supposed to do with a chair?
And his table looked fine. Not a piece of paper or scrap of food was left on it.
Hey,
No Mr. Bungle sat here.
actually, he's under the table, like I just said.
Phil's friends were careful to put their waste papers and empty milk cartons where they belonged.
Hey, wait a minute. Throw that straw in the
This way,
trash.
they helped keep the
You don't leave it in the milk carton. That's still garbage.
Phil was certain that Mr. Bungle wouldn't put his paper in the waste basket and his empty carton on the milk tray. Mr. Bungle probably wouldn't bother to put his lunch tray in the right place either, but Phil and his friends did.
I don't know. Maybe Mr. Bungle would. I mean, give him a chance.
Lunch was good today.
Well, lunch is always
Then
good.
Miss Brown told Phil and his friends how proud she was of them. They had left their table the neatest in the lunchroom.
Now everyone line up.
No one
Everyone's
here
doing a
was
pop
Mr.
quiz on
Bungle,
Mr. Bungle.
And no one wanted to be.
I'm looking at you, Susie.
Are you like Mr. Bungle?
Holy crap, the puppet's back to
Mr.
life.
Bungle is ashamed because he spoils lunch.
What did I ever do to you?
Don't be like Mr. Bungle.
I'm a serious
Good
puppet.
lunchtime manners, and lunch will be more fun for
Oh,
everyone.
thank goodness the curtain's down. Ugh. Wow, a guy from college telling us how to eat lunch. I think someone with a brain would know how to eat lunch. But don't be a Mr. Bungle, or you'll be crucified.